If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started.
Aw, yeah, it's time for another episode of the Comic Book Kaiju. We'd like to thank you very much for listening to our lovely discussions of all things comic books. My name is Vactor, and I have two goals with this podcast. The first goal is to have interesting comic book discussions. The second goal is to get caught up on current comics after I got snapped away by Thanos for 5 years. I wasn't reading, and I was lost in the sauce, as they say. But now I'm back, and I have my big homie, Marcus Seabury, here to help me out. Seabury, what's your goals with this podcast?
Number one, just I missed the fun of podcasting that I had when, recording with you back when you lived in Memphis, and our other friends that have kind of come through the podcast is making guest appearances. It's like I first started podcasting with you all, and I kind of hit a spot where it wasn't as fun. So that was the number one thing. Then the number two thing is I just man, I love comics, man. I like talking about comics, and I just won't, I want to do that on a weekly basis, because my other, podcast that I'm affiliated with, Black Nerd Power, is no longer weekly. So I was like, I got to get back to the fun, man. I am Shawn Michaels circa 97 trying to find my smile.
Yes. And Seabury is here to provide the sweet chin music to all the listeners. And guess what? There's actually, speaking of fun in podcasting and going back to our Memphis roots of podcasting, I have started a new wrestling podcast called the Kick Out Kaiju, hosted by myself and Mr. Chris Eaton, formerly of the Geekland podcast. And if you're a longtime listener of Comic Book Kaiju, you'll recognize him from episode 2, the Geekland reunion episode. But we have started a wrestling podcast, and we're going to have Mr. Marcus Seabury on our next episode. And Seabury, we're going to be this new podcast. We're talking about your favorite match. What is that?
Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Randy Savage with the Intercontinental title on the line at WrestleMania 3.
Oh man, I don't think I've ever watched that match in its entirety. Like, I know of it, but I don't think I ever watched it in its entirety. So that's going to be super fun, because basically the premise of that show is we watch our favorite matches and we do commentary on the match. So the first episode that we did, Chris Eaton was walking me through the Money in the Bank 2011 match between CM Punk and John Cena, which I had never seen before. So he was kind of telling me, catching me up on what was going on, what was the storyline at the time. So that was cool. So now I'll be very interested to hear, Seabury, your thoughts on what was going on at that time in your life and in WWF at the time, now WWE, between those two guys. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So keep an eye out. Yeah. Keep an eye out on your feeds for the Kick Out Kaiju. We got the first episode out there right now. Episode 2 is going to feature Mr. Marcus Seabury, because we want to have the fun in podcasting, and we want Seabury to have a good time. Woo! Now, speaking of good times, Seabury, there's a little bit of comic book news that I wanted to talk to you about, and this is a new segment on our show. We're always evolving and changing the format and the flow of this podcast. But comic book news happens every day, and I'm trying to keep up with it on our TikTok, our Reels, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. So if you're following us on those platforms, you'll see me trying to cover news on a day-to-day basis because every day there's some new comic book news. But these two stories in particular, I wanted to talk to Seabury about. So let's talk about the news that actually just came out today. The Batgirl movie. Remember that?
Yeah, I was looking forward to it. Michael Keaton is Batman.
Yes, Michael Keaton. Brendan Fraser is playing Firefly. Leslie Grace was playing Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. And the Bad Boys for Life, and also Miss Marvel filmmakers. I'm going to butcher those names, so I'm not going to say them. But they had greenlit this project last year as part of a company-wide effort at Warner Brothers to create feature films specifically for HBO Max. Now, this movie, Batgirl, was already in post-production, in the middle of post-production. It is no longer going to HBO Max, Seabury. And so your next thought is, oh, okay, they're going to put it in the theater, right? No, they're not going to put it in the theater either. So it is now going on the shelf. I don't know what is going to happen with this footage that's already been filmed. Is this going to be the 2020 version of the 90s Fantastic Four, Seabury, where you're going to have a bootleg, your friend's got a bootleg of the Batgirl, and hey, give it to me. Let me open your trench coat and give me that Batgirl.
Oh my God, that was so 80s. Yeah, like a trench coat and a fedora. Hey kid, want that Batgirl?
So this had a $75 million budget, Seabury. Now that's how it started, and then after principal photography and post production, it got up to $90 million. Also some COVID delays as well, but let's just say $90 million Warner Brothers spent is now gone. I don't know where that's going to go. But what was your immediate thoughts when you heard about this Batgirl getting canceled?
I thought it was dumb. I was like, okay, even if it's crap, you have a whole streaming service.
Right.
Like, just put it on there and try to recoup something.
Yeah.
But they were like, no. Well, now I've been reading articles. Now, one article that I saw said the test screenings were abysmal. So that was it. But then another article I read said, I guess the new owners of Warner Bros., what I believe is the Discovery people and all that.
Oh, yes, right.
They've decided to pivot away from streaming releases. And
What?
yeah, they want to go more toward full-fledged theatrical releases. And they felt like since Batgirl was filmed with streaming in mind, that that it won't look good if they put it in the theater. So they rather not. Now, also, there was like a little, I guess, semi-sequel to Scoob that also got shared. Yeah, that was going to be like a little Halloween special or something.
Now, what is going on at Warner Brothers right now? Like, there's so much upheaval that's happening right now.
Discovery is swooped in and like, look, this how we gonna do it. Like, meet the new boss. And so that happened. And of course, now the fear is that the other two projects that were intended to be HBO Max exclusive movies, the Black Canary Project and the Blue Beetle Project, will also be shelved. Now that is the new fear.
Yeah, that's a lot of the sentiment I saw both amongst my friends just texting and then also online. So it's all going to be very interesting to see what transpires from this. But no nope news is bad news or no press is bad press or whatever it is, whatever the the popular phrase is. This is getting a ton of buzz right now. Like everybody in the comic book world is talking about this, and it's it. I think it's there's a little bit of demand right now for this. Now everybody's oh wait a minute, oh, I want to see it now. You guys, you canceled it. Not only the people who are already looking forward to it, but maybe even the people who weren't necessarily interested. They heard about it and they're like, wait a minute, let me see that. Let me see how bad it is. Let me see this train wreck. Let me see the as I'm driving past the car wreck. I want to see what's going on over there. So we'll see what happens here, Seabury. But I am very interested because you know what else had kind of a similar situation was this week the Sandman project is coming out at Netflix, and
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, man, when's that Jordan Joseph Gordon-Levitt Sandman coming out? And then I looked it up and was like, oh yeah, he left that in 2016, and he left it because new bosses came in and took over Warner Brothers and said, "Hey, this is how we're doing it." And he had a lengthy Facebook post where he was like, "All right, guys, I'm out. Like these guys, they don't jive with my version of Sandman and what I think makes Sandman special. So I'm out. Good luck to you guys. I'm out." So that was 2016. That was, we're in 2022 now, and the same thing is happening. So I just feel like Warner Brothers and DC are in this constant backpedal, and this is going back to Iron Man. Like Marvel has DC on their heels as far as live action content, I think, and they've just been struggling to get back on their feet. And we saw that at Comic-Con where it was like, all right, The Rock, 50-year-old Dwayne Johnson comes out, and the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. All right, whatever that means. And then Shazam 2 looks okay. But then Marvel comes out. All right, guys, 2 Avengers movies, Kang, all this stuff. We did a whole episode on it where we talked about the announcements, and we still got D23 coming out, which I believe that's where we're going to get the X-Men and all the mutant announcements.
Okay.
So like I'm kind of worried about DC, Seaver. I just don't know when are they going to get back to that.
You know what? Here is my Nirvana point with DC. They just tend to be gutsy, man. Like, and they're so gutsy to the point where I'm either gonna really love it or really hate it.
Yeah.
Really love it like Joker, or really hate it like the original cut of Batman vs Superman, or the original cut of Justice League. And it's
Martha.
Like, why'd you say that? But it's just like, I don't know. I've learned to respect the moxie and chutzpah of DC because love them or hate them, they don't really play it safe. It's just like, let's try this, let's try that. And it is a contrast because, man, the MCU is just so safe. And it's like, sometimes it just, I appreciate it. I don't think they've made a film that's not entertaining at all. Like even Eternals has entertaining moments, but
Right.
it's just like, oh no, this is Feige, this is the grand plan, and it's cool. Most of the time it works, but it's like, sometimes I just be like, man, take a risk, man, live a little, let your hair down.
Yeah.
But now, of course, Warner Brothers and DC goes to the other extreme where they just like, no fear, man, YOLO, just let's try everything. Oh, Michael Keaton's coming back as Batman, but so is Ben Affleck. Rules, I scoff at your rules.
Yeah, and it's like there's nothing, like we talked about wanting an ending of Phase 4, right? We wanted a through line, and we wanted something, a little carrot at the end of the rainbow. And with DC, I feel the same way, and I've been feeling that way ever since Justice League was announced, I'm like, all right, well, what is the whole through line of this? And now that Justice League came out and they're they pivoted away from Zack Snyder, now it's like, well, now what? We got a couple okay solo stuff like Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Shazam, but where's it all leading to? So, you know, and
I
the
really don't
Batman.
know, because I felt like Zack Snyder was leading towards like Injustice League, Legion of Doom, whatever you want to call them. I felt like that's where he was going, but
Man,
you know, Jim Lee pretty much said it kind of like, yeah, I think we're kind of done with the Snyderverse.
yeah,
And also, it's confusing because you're still using Snyderverse actors.
right. Yeah, that's 100%, especially with people who aren't familiar with comics or who don't keep up with it. Probably not listening to this podcast, but yeah, it's kind of confusing what DC. You know, I'd love to be in a meeting with these guys and see what's going on over there. And we've said it time and time again, Seabury. They need a Kevin Feige. They need somebody to come in there and like take over because Jeff Johns wasn't it. I don't think Jim Lee is it. Like these are great comic book guys, but as far as movie guys,
Yeah.
it just hasn't happened. So we'll continue to keep you posted on the Comic Book Kaiju as all of these things come out. But just kind of disappointed on a personal level, all those people who worked on it, and now it's like, all right, you're not. It's not even going to get put out. Like no one's going to be able to see the work that you did, whether it was good or bad. You just can't even see it. So,
Well, sadly, that's not uncommon in Hollywood. Like,
oh
man, I've
man,
seen documentaries with people like, yeah, man, we were on the film and we had done 3 weeks, and then somebody just came out during lunch was like, yeah, the studio changed their mind.
dang,
It's over. Go home.
man,
Everybody like, for real? I mean, this, like I said, dude, it takes so much for a film to be made, like at every level. I
right.
mean, like, cause you know, I'm at like the subterranean level of like micro budget. You know, that's coming out your pocket. You balancing that with a day job normally. So of course that's trying. But even on the level where that's all you do, it's still so many moving pieces, man, trying to get stuff to work and come together. Oh, can I get this scene? Oh crap, I'm losing light, you know, and oh or you know, oh I won't be able to do this pivotal scene. Like it is so, it's just a lot, man. It's a lot of moving pieces, man. So yeah, it does suck. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm like, hey, at least I got paid. So, like,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and man, I really wanted to see that. And I just, here's the thing, man. I'm a guy, I'm a figure guy, and I'm a comic reader, and I've always had a soft spot for like street level and obscure characters, and like Blue Beetle was in the pipeline, man. Like the newer Hispanic Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
You know, a character that I like. It's kind of grown on me. You know, I just wanted, like, I expected them to put the heavy hitters in theaters. You know, I know how this works, but I really wanted my C and D listers, you know, to come out. Like, you know, maybe we could have got a blue and gold.
Yeah.
Head cord Blue Beetle and Booster Gold or something. You know, I just
Yes.
have always had a soft spot for like the randos. So it's like,
Yeah. Well, the opposite of the studio coming in and taking away your creation or your work, the creator of, well, I shouldn't say the creator, sorry. The longtime writer of the current Miles Morales comic book, Saladin Ahmed, is leaving the book after the 42nd issue. He actually announced this in his Substack, which I didn't know he had a Substack. I just subscribed to it as I was doing a little bit of
yeah.
research before this. But
And I
Seabury,
believe the book is actually ending too. So it's just like, he's gone, they're stopping, like, all right. And Marvel kind of does that. Like a lot of times, it's like, all right, so that's the end of your story. All right, we'll stop. Because what do the big two love to do? Start over with new
Oh
number
yeah,
ones
100%.
because that will inflate the sales figures, but then it will eventually fade away in a road, and you're back to those pre relaunch.
Right. And you and I have both been enjoying the Miles Morales comic, and the only thing I didn't enjoy from his run was the new costume change. I don't know. I don't know what the thinking behind the turtleneck was. Uh, it just. I'd like to see it in real life. Also, kind of what is what does this look like, right? Like the collar, like I said, kind of like oversized neck of this. That's what really just weirds me out about that costume. Plus, I always loved his original costume from the Ultimate Universe and this the one that he had when they started this comic. But it's been about 4 years on the book, and I just got caught up this year. So for me, it was this year that I've been reading the whole thing. Seabury, you've been reading from the beginning, right?
Yeah, and okay, Saladin Ahmed was, I guess, a traditional novelist, a lot of fantasy type stuff. His first big splash at Marvel was this 12-part Black Bolt series that I loved.
Mm.
Like Black Bolt winds up on some kind of prison ship or something, and his powers are muted, and also the absorbing man's there, and they escape, and then they go back to Earth, and of course they eventually wind up getting involved with the absorbing man's wife, Titania. And dude, this is the only time I ever really cared about Black Bolt. I'm gonna just keep it a book. Yeah, but I was just like, I don't care. Then of course, people like, the owner of my local comic shop, like, yeah, that was a good book, but that's not really Black Bolt. I was like, you're probably right, and I don't care. Because it was fun to me. And then when I said, oh, okay, so Saladin Ahmed isn't like a hop in and hop out guy. He's really about this comics life now, as well as his novels. So, I was pleased when he jumped on Miles Morales, and I was like, okay, yeah, Saladin is just good at this, because I mean, sadly, I can contrast, and people gonna come for my neck, but man, God bless Ta-Nehisi Coates, but oh boy, as much as I love his works, like his novels and things, I felt the opposite about his Black Panther run. And I was just like, where is the action? You just talk. And like later on, it kind of got better, but there were even like slow issues in space. I'm like, you're in space. Shoot an asteroid or something. It's like, no, talking. But Saladin wasn't like that to me. Like Saladin got it.
Nice.
Like he really got it.
Yeah.
And so that makes me sad, because like I've liked the idea of Miles, but I haven't always loved all the stories he's in. But I like the Saladin stuff, and also I love the kind of mainstream acceptance he got after Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
So like I said, I know they got this sequel coming. So I just have a feeling like they're gonna take a break. It might be a 3 to 6 month break, but it's like, yo, Miles is popping in these comic and movie streets.
Oh yeah, because we got two Across the Spider-Verse. We got two sequels to Into the Spider-Verse coming.
Yeah, so they're gonna, like, Miles Morales will return.
Yeah, and even Saladin on his Substack, he titled it "So Long for Now," which hints that he could come back and that Miles is not leaving. Also, but yeah, I'm really interested to see how they end it. and then also what is to come for Miles. Hopefully, let's get him a new suit, guys. Come on, let's get him back to the classic suit that I know and love.
Or if you're gonna do something, just give him the freaking suit from the movie. Like, God.
Ooh.
Because Marvel normally does it. Marvel would normally like, oh, well, okay, well, everybody loves Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, so
Right.
let's make Iron Man look like Robert Downey Jr. in the comic.
Right.
Oh, everybody loves the costume from the movie, so let's give them a costume like that. It's like, this was like they try to be avant-garde or something. It's like, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that sample from N-Words in Paris, where the guy's like, it's provocative.
It gets the people going.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, but it did not.
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see something. And you know what, Seabury, on a personal note, I would recommend to you, because I know you're not a big gamer, but I would recommend to you, they have the entire story of the Miles Morales video game. Actually, well, there's two things. Number one, my wife and I played through the game on my YouTube channel. So you could watch us if you want to listen to our little commentary. That's on my YouTube page. But also, people just took out all the gameplay stuff and just put the cutscenes up. So they edit it together and you can just watch it like a movie. And the storyline of that game is actually pretty good. It would have made a good comic. So I would recommend that to you if you have a chance. You know, a couple hours, just watch it on YouTube, and you can see the whole story of Miles Morales video game.
Yeah, because that's what I did with the first installment of The Last of Us. So yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Man, I've always been trash at games. I used to like go into seclusion before and play a game an insane amount of times to get decent. When I was a younger man, I just don't have the love for it anymore. So yes, I would much rather watch somebody else do the heavy lifting or watch the cutscenes.
Yeah. Actually, Seabury, this is a little tangent, a little video game tangent. So you watched all of Last of Us 1. Have you gotten around to any of Last of Us 2 yet?
No, but I need to.
Yes.
I know I need to.
That story is big. That Last of Us 2, it's like emotionally heavy. Very I don't want to spoil it for you, but that is a great storyline and very divisive too.
Dude, I'm so rowdy that Marcel the Shell with shoes on almost made me cry. So come bring on the emotions.
Yeah, that is a great one. All right, so speaking of emotions, Seabury, let's get into our giant-sized topic this week. And you had some emotions because you brought this topic to my attention. So why don't you tell everybody what you were thinking when you came upon this thought?
Yeah, I've just noticed, in particular with the mainstream comic companies, they give us the illusion of change. And, you know, like even since the 70s, they put on a cover, like, forget everything you've heard before. This issue changes everything.
Right.
And you get hype and you get into it, or they change, you know, whoever is, you know, in the identity, whoever is donning this costume.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, I don't know, a character might get paralyzed, or a character might get hurt in this and that, or, you know, a character's identity might get exposed. But it's
even death too. Like, they died, but yeah, they'll be back.
Well, I agree with Max. Dang, what is his name? Max?
Oh, Landis?
Yes, Max Landis. That Superman's death kind of broke death in comics.
Right.
I'm in firm agreement. Yeah, man. It's just like, I'm just noticing that particularly with the mainstream comics, there's not really change. You can contrast it to like, I don't know, like Savage Dragon or something from Image.
Right.
Like, this man started living in a whole new dimension for a long time. It was like, all right, my dimension's gone. This dimension, okay. You were different in my dimension, yeah, but you're like this now. All right, cool. I'll roll with it. Like that was like a decade of Savage Dragon.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, you see it in the indies, man, but like these mainstream guys, it's like they guard the IP with their life, man. Particularly now, and it's just like I don't know. It's like I can't even get hyped no more. And I mean, even back in the day, like some stuff was obvious. Like I mean, people were like, "Oh, Superman's dead," because everybody got caught up in the hype, right? And even at 16, I'm like, guys, Superman is like one of their most successful characters. You really think they're gonna just let Superman stay dead forever? Then everybody else I was trying to argue, trying to say, nah, man, Doomsday, like it looks like he's dead now too, and he's never coming back. I'm like, dude, comics has never worked like that. I'm like, guys, they're gonna bring him back. I remember having these arguments in the store, a few years ago. Well, that's about 15, 16 years ago. In the conclusion of Civil War, Steve Rogers, Captain America, is arrested. Yeah, I know. We're old. We're old. Hey man, time goes one way. It's cool. Roll with it. But so Steve Rogers is quote unquote murdered or in time or some crap. I remember arguing in the store. Nah, man, they ain't gonna bring Steve Rogers back. And I'm like, you are reading comics yesterday. Like, cause I got a Death of Superman saga, I got a Nightfall. I've got like so many stories where Spider-Man is near death and sees Uncle Ben, and Uncle Ben tells him to be responsible.
Right.
Like, I'm like, history says you're wrong, buddy. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I got jaded to the point where I quit even buying crossovers for a minute. I was like, man,
wow.
Especially Marvel, because oh my god, Marvel is so bad at like last issue. All right, hit the reset button.
Right.
Everything's cool. And I'd be like, but that ain't what I grew up on. Like, I felt like, in particular, like in the case of Marvel and DC, I think like they were willing to try more stuff when it wasn't like, oh God, what can be options? Because like, Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars back in the day, like, it brought things that lasted for a minute. Like, the Thing went solo and left the Fantastic Four. She-Hulk joined the Fantastic Four. Magneto had turned good for a while, hang with the X-Men, freaking Spider-Man's black costume, which became Venom.
Right.
But it's like, I just feel like everything is so temporary and so like of the moment. Like even costume change, like New 52, Superman come, he gets does Superman need armor? No, but at least it was different, man. I was like, okay, so he's not wearing the same thing. But then a few years passed, well, we had to go back to the old red trunks over the blue costume because that's what people love. And I'd be like, but it's dumb. Like it was made in the 40s. Or every time Spider-Man gets a new costume, eventually gotta go back to the red and blue because that's what people know. Gotta protect that IP. And by IP I mean intellectual property, guys. For those who might not know, because you gotta protect your IP. You gotta make sure he or she or the character looks very similar to the way they look in the movies.
Yeah. And this is a topic, like you said, even going back 15, 16 years. I remember having this topic on Geekland when we had the Geekland podcast, and it hasn't changed. It's been 15 years. It has not changed. It's still the same and probably won't be different for the foreseeable future. And I feel like there's pros and cons to that approach because on the one hand, I do like having a complete 3-act structure, narrative structure for a story, beginning, middle, and end. I don't necessarily like the getting stuck in quicksand of the illusion of a third act. We will always get the first two acts of these characters, the like you said, the mainstream characters, Marvel and DC, but we will never get their third act, or it'll be this alternate storyline. Oh yeah, maybe in the future this will be Batman's ending. This will be his last story. But even like with Dark Knight Returns, at the end of it, it was like, well, he could still go on, and then Frank Miller did 900 sequels and kind of ruined that. But I like, like I said, I like having a beginning, middle, and end. I like change. Nightwing is a great example of a character that they actually let evolve and let change. But now it seems like Nightwing's stuck in his late 20s, early 30s, and he's not going to leave that. I don't think they're going to let him age up anymore. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Damian.
Well, I'm just kind of glad they, because there was a moment like after the New 52 drop when Richard Grayson was just, let's just say he was for the streets, as they say. Richard Grayson was getting it in with all the honeys. And I am a Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon shipper. Like that is my OTP. That's my one true parent. Like them two together feels like home to me. Okay, so I'm at least glad that they're reverting back to those two. Because I'm like, come on, guys. It's the first Robin and the first Batgirl. It's like it's Kismet.
Well, that was another thing. Barbara, they allowed her to change into Oracle. She was Oracle for like what, 20 years?
Yeah, for
and
real.
Then all right, she's back to jumping around, running around, no paralyzation. She's back to normal. I don't know.
Well,
paralyzation is a word.
Is a little wonky, so that's why she's in semi-retirement now.
Oh, okay. That I like the actually having a difference versus okay, this character is going to be the same. You look at kind of Peter Parker a little bit, where it's like they allowed him to age a little bit. He went through high school, he went through college, became a teacher, and then got stuck. And it's like, all right, he can never age beyond that, unless you're doing like a Spider-Man life story. But there's the good and the bad of that is you're not allowing that character to actually have a resolution. But then I guess the positive of that is, oh well, now my son can have the same characters that I had, and the same joy that I had, but for him it'll be modern because he'll be getting modern writers, modern artists. And so that is like one way of looking at it, like, oh yeah, it's cool that he can enjoy the stuff that I enjoyed, and it'll be updated for him. And I think about it in a video game sense, where the video games that we, like you and me, Seabray, the video games that we grew up with today look like garbage. And you try to show that to a kid today, and they're like, what is this? And it's like, no, it's great, it's fun, it's and they're like, get this out of here. I'm kind of thinking like that for like 50s and 60s art and writing styles. I think of Stan Lee dialogue.
Oh boy, I feel about the only old head artist that I still kind of pop for is Jack Kirby.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Because even back then, it was just like, Jack, are you under the influence of something? Why won't you share it? It was like a good time. Sorry. And then too, it's like, although it took my 30s to get Jack Kirby. Like when I was little, I was like,
right,
dude, stuff looks weird. Now I'm like, oh, it is weird. I love it.
I'm the exact same way. And really the biggest thing for me is the digital coloring versus the old style coloring. That's the biggest thing that makes a difference in the artwork, where it's hard for me to look at a lot of the old stuff because of the coloring at the time. But yeah, like I said, it's just there's pros and cons to it. and you look at like indie books, like you said, Savage Dragon. I'm thinking about Invincible, Walking Dead, things that they made a change or they made changes and those changes stuck. Like there was no going back. It was all right. You wrote this guy lost his hand. He lost his hand. He's not getting his hand back. Um, Things like that. It's like I like that, but I also like I said, being able to have, it's almost like a warm blanket, right? Seabury, we're reading Daredevil, we're reading Spider-Man, we're reading Batman. This is stuff that we grew up on, and it's Bruce Wayne Batman, it's Peter Parker Spider-Man, and when you start to pass on the legacy and pass on the mantle, then it's like, oh, well, that's not the same. If I'm giving it to my son, let's say, or to you, let's say to your nephew or to your niece, you're giving them something that you didn't have. If it's all right, this is Miles Morales. Oh, well, I didn't grow up on Miles Morales. I grew up on Peter Parker. It's cool that you have your own, but I'm not, I guess I'm not as connected because I'm not sharing the exact same thing.
I hear you, but also, man, DC in the 80s and 90s, they was some legacy hero loving fools. Like Barry Allen, we thought he died in the original.
Right.
Like Wally West was the Flash for a minute.
Right.
Like middle of the 80s to like what 09 when they found Throwback.
Right.
Barry Allen, and you had like Connor Hawk for a minute, like Oliver Queen was dead. Like
Hal Jordan.
Kyle Rayner took over Hal Jordan and like a lot of legacy heroes in like later iterations of the Justice Society of America. Like I felt like that was DC's thing. Like, hey guys, things happen, people die. But here are the new people that to take over the character. And I mean that felt natural to me. Like I did miss some characters, but not Barry Allen. Sorry, never was a Barry Allen fan. Wally West for life. But like I just thought it was cool. But like I said, well, now I know a lot of DC was Jeff Johns, because Jeff Johns he was the hot writer. He was like, I want to work on the classic versions. And he would just do silly stuff like they gave Cyborg liquid metal powers and he was so badass, and he was like, no, I don't like that. Let's find a way to get him back to being half metal and half human. And I was like, dude, you just ruined years of writing by different people for your own selfish ends. And it's like DC kind of started this change and started doing it. But like, I mean, I guess I like the mix because, like, Batman was still Batman, Superman was still Superman, but it's like, there's a new Flash. Here's this Green Arrow. Here's this guy, and he's had a rotating cast of Robins.
Right.
I guess I like the mix and I don't know, man. It's like, I think the trouble is I'm just getting older and I question so much now. Like I'm 46 now and I'm just like, man. So nothing's ever going to change. In particular, I've talked about my frustration with Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and just, we just won't let him grow up. We won't let him stay married to Mary Jane. Won't even let him have a successful job. Like, no, Spider-Man's got to struggle because that's the way it was and we liked it.
They even brought Gwen Stacy back. Now she's Spider-Gwen. Now she's Ghost Spider. Now she's from an alternate universe, but there's still that character of Gwen Stacy who was from the 60s, and now we got her in 2020 and she's young. So yeah, it's all kind of interesting, and like you said, it's all just the corporations trying to squeeze a dollar out and say, okay, we can make more money off of this recognizable character versus creating new characters, right? Even when the Milestone people come in, or whenever there's new IPs, they're so resistant to it. I mean, we even saw that with the animated stuff, Seabury, where it was like, hey, can we get something that's not Superman, Batman, or Justice League? Can we get another character? You guys got how many thousands of characters, and we're still getting the same ones over and over again? What's crazy is when I looked at the DC lineup today that came out as we record this on August 2nd, 2022, and it was like so many Batman heavy titles. I was like, man, how many Bat titles can the market withstand? You know, like when do we get oversaturated on Batman? Um,
I don't know, cause like when I was in high school, Spider-Man had 4 titles.
yeah,
Now these
I
days
remember
he
that.
might have like 2 monthly and a host of
Yeah,
short-term series.
we're getting the
I
Spider
just
Verse.
yeah, or the Spider-Verse. I mean, like, well, I know, particularly in terms of comics, man, that market just keeps shrinking, and like, when you go to the stores, people like me, 40 and up, 40 plus now, you see a few little kids sprinkled in there, that gives me hope because, I see like a kid talking to his dad about Venom and why he likes Venom, and I'd be like, that's right, you raised that boy right, you raised him right. Or, you'll see some women, and I appreciate that because, like, I want comics to be for everybody. Like, they can just overcome the obnoxious gatekeeper nerds that'll probably say something stupid to them, But I guess they kind of run it scared, man. So it's like, all right, we can't take chances, and we're, either this has been optioned or it's a current movie series, or we hope it'll be optioned in the future. So, gotta go back. You gotta go back to that classic run. And that's even a cliche in comics. This is a back to basics run.
Oh yeah, right.
So like they, like I said, the little kids are all about that, card games and anime and Pokemon and manga. You know, it's not like when we were little and they were, all on newsstands and all that. So like I get their running scared and I get that.
Yeah.
Um, I get there trying to protect their neck, so to speak.
Hmm.
But I guess I miss more of the mixture. It just feels like everything is just like IP over everything.
Right.
Makes me
Yeah,
sad.
I'm the same way, and that's also kind of why I turned to indie books as well as the mainstream. It's like I love Marvel and DC, and they're also kind of running into this problem now with the films. Robert Downey Jr. has left the Iron Man role, but there's kind of rumors, a little bubbling, that he's going to be in Secret Wars. You know, it's going to be a different alternate reality Tony Stark. But yeah, what do you do when the real life actors age out of these parts and it's time to recast? Oh, okay, we're going to reset the exact same character back to basics, back to the core elements of their origin story. And I even thought about that with Barry Allen on the Flash show. It was like, oh, okay, so you're bringing in Flash in 2020, or whenever it was, 2016 or 2013, whenever the Flash show came out, and you don't make it Wally West, you make it Barry Allen. And it's, even though Grant Gustin doesn't have blonde hair, and he it seems like he could have been a more of a Wally, or a different Flash, but that core character. And remember when Smallville brought him in and it was Bart? So
Yeah,
they weren't always precious to the legacy characters, but now they maybe they go in peaks and valleys. Now they're back to the legacy characters. But yeah, I'm with you, Seabury. I like a mixture of both. Um, but I wonder, for comics to continue, and I think about this all the time. What is the best? What is the thing that will keep comics going? And I think about comic shops going away and sales going down. individual issues maybe selling less and then trade paperbacks selling more. Like I always think about these industry issues
Oh, I
and
definitely think OGNs and trades are the future, like original graphic novels and
Mhm.
trade are the future. And oh my gosh, like I mean, I know we're gonna talk about this, eventually, but like, hey guys, here's why manga's kicking your butt.
Yeah.
You see what they have? Consistent creative teams. Also, you see what else they have? When storylines end, they kind of end.
Yeah, they allow their characters to change. That's also yeah, that's a good point. And we'll probably talk about that on a future episode. But yeah, it just kind of makes me cringe a little bit when I think about like, man, I don't want comics to go away. I don't want um, the business to take over and take out the creative side of comics, where it's like, well, we can't be creative, we can't make new stories because we can't sell them. Like people won't buy them anymore, and that's the end of comic books. There's no more comics. So it's always just interesting to see how these things evolve and shape or flow, I should say. But the illusion of change in mainstream comics is something that I think about all the time, whether it's in comic form or in the live action, the movies that we're getting. Um,
Yeah, definitely, because like Marvel is throwing out this multiverse, but it seems to just be a way to do red herrings or fan service, and it's like, well, no, if you have a character that's dead, you can bring back another one
yeah.
because you created a freaking multiverse.
Actually,
I,
oh, go ahead.
I, I just throw my hands up, man. Just, hey,
Yeah, you know what else I was thinking of was how they keep rebooting the Ninja Turtles, and there's new cartoons, there's new movies, and Turtles is it's kind of an anomaly amongst indie creators that everybody's always looking for the next Ninja Turtles, but
yeah.
they've had an interesting arc too, where it's like it's the same four turtles, and they'll bring in other turtles, but you're always going back to those same four, and the reboots are bringing them back to their original like
and
form.
and then like, but what I like about for like the people in charge of turtles is they have fun with it. Like you'll
Right.
have cartoons with with different versions of the turtles working
Right.
together. Because at this point, it's got to be a turtles multiverse. Like it has to be. There's so many freaking versions,
Right.
and they like, okay, let's have fun with it. Like
Yeah.
I can at least appreciate that. Like own, own up to it, own it, and use it to do cool things.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's a good ending point for our conversation here, Seabury. I don't know if you had anything else specifically to add to it.
Man, it's just just some old head comic questions when you be like, yeah, that's silly. That doesn't make sense. But yet I'm still reading. So
Yeah.
am I part of the problem? It's like,
Yeah, so that's going to be an interesting thing to follow. And we would also like to hear your thoughts. If you're listening in podcast land or in YouTube land, leave us a comment, reach out to us, let us know your thoughts on the illusion of change in mainstream comics. Is it a good thing, or do we actually need this evolution in order for our mainstream comics to survive and to continue? Let us know. Send us a message. You can always leave us a review in iTunes. I don't know why I say iTunes every single time. In Apple Podcast or in Spotify, 5 stars if you're nasty. We would love that. Don't forget to share us with all of your comic loving family and friends. And I have a little programming note for you guys, a little change. Our book of the month is going to switch up a little bit, and we're going to be doing Nightwing Volume One, Leaping into the Light, and that's by Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo. I actually did a little review on my YouTube channel, just Vactor, Vactor. You can check that out. I think I titled it "Why Nightwing Doesn't Suck." So if you want to,
I
check
mean,
that
it really
out.
doesn't. Like even when they took away all the superhero stuff and just made him Grace and Agent of Sparrow, it's like, still love it.
So definitely check that out. We'll leave a link in the show notes. You can pick that up, read it, and then come back and join us for our book of the month when we talk about Nightwing Volume 1, Leaping into the Light. Don't forget the Comic Book Kaiju is part of the Geek So to Speak podcast network, where we have our video game podcast, The Sandbox Gamers, Technological, our Star Trek podcast, and Geek So to Speak, our geek news podcast. Seabury, I know that our friends can check you out podcasting at Black Nerd Power, like you said earlier, but also at Cinesundry reviewing movies.
Yes. Cinesundry. That's a movie review show that I do in conjunction with On Location Memphis. That's an organization kind of trying to do outreach and give panels and different discussions about movies and music and things like that. So you can find it on the On Location Memphis Facebook page or the On Location Memphis YouTube channel. And, once again, like I said, Black Nerd Power is on a bit of a hiatus. But if you want to hear all the episodes, all of them, we did it we started in 2014. We kind of took a hiatus in 2022. You can go to the you can listen to those on the Kazukian app. That is KUDZUKIA.
Excellent. Also, we do have some social media links in our show notes. We are just CBK Pod. That's Comic Book Kaiju Pod on Twitter and Instagram. And I've been posting links on TikTok at Vactor Loves Comics. So check all those out. And we will catch you again on the next episode of the Comic Book Kaiju. On behalf of Marcus Seabury, I am Vactor. We love comics, and you should too.